For years, the galaxy was at war. Alien empires rose and fell. Planets burned. Billions died. But one day, peace finally came. The Galactic Peace Council was formed. All major species agreed to stop fighting. They needed peacekeepers, calm, strong, voices to stop new wars, and so the Council invited Earth humans. They came in silence. Their faces were calm, their voices soft. No weapons, no demands. The aliens smiled. Humans are peaceful now, they said. The Terran Wars changed them. But some old warriors remembered different stories. Stories of Earth, stories of fire and rage. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes deep in Sector 9, a small alien scout ship, the Saren's Eye, flew near the edge of human space. It was a simple mission. Check human activity. Report back. Nothing more. But then, silence. No signal. No emergency beacon. No life signs. Only one message made it out. 4 words. They waited. Then struck. The Council laughed. They said it was a system failure, or pirates, or space madness. But one commander, Varnak of the Lithari, didn't laugh. He watched the message over and over. He froze the screen, looked into the fear on the alien pilot's face. No pirates make a face like that, Varnak said. Still, the Council ignored him. Humans smiled in every meeting. They nodded. They helped. They were perfect peacekeepers. Too perfect. The calm. Before the storm months passed, humans did their jobs. They followed Council rules. They helped weaker planets. They offered aid and protection. Other species trusted them. Some even grew close to them. But Varnak watched from a distance. He saw patterns. Human patrol ships flew strange routes. Their colonies were quiet but always ready. No children played in the streets. No laughter. Only training, drills, and silence. Something is coming, Varnak whispered to himself. He asked to visit Earth. His request was denied. Security reasons, they said. The second disappearance. Then, it happened again. Another alien ship. This, time from the Yulvar race, entered human space by accident. They were lost, low on fuel, and sent a friendly request for help. The signal was clear. Then, gone. Only wreckage was found, clean, empty, no bodies, no burn marks, just metal twisted, like paper. And again, silence. No humans spoke of it. The Council asked questions. Humans smiled. We found nothing, they said. But Varnak had seen enough. This is not peacekeeping, he told the Council. This is preparation. They are waiting. Watching. An old story. In the archives of the war, Varnak found something, forgotten. A human general, long dead, once said, "We are not the first to shoot, we are the last to stop." That sentence chilled Varnak's bones. Humans don't forget. They don't forgive. They don't attack first. But when they do, they don't stop. And now, they were peacekeepers, with ships, with access, with silence. Ending. Scene of Part 1, cliffhanger. In the dark space near Earth, a shadow moves. It's not listed on any map, not shown on any scan. A giant structure. Not a station, not a base. A warship. Hidden, silent, waiting. Inside it, a human officer stands before a large screen. On it, alien faces speak of peace. He listens, then turns away. Let them think we've changed, he says. Let them forget what we are. The camera zooms out. Dozens of ships, just like this one, wait in the dark. Quiet, still, patient. The stars over the colony of New Harmony were bright. The air was calm. Children played under blue skies. People smiled. It looked like peace had truly reached this distant world. But peace can sometimes be the quiet before something else. Far above the colony, hidden behind the curve of the planet, an unknown ship watched. It did not send a message. It did not show a flag. It just waited. The people of New Harmony didn't see it. They couldn't hear it. But their fate was already decided. Hook. First 7 minutes at Galactic Council headquarters, a meeting was called. A message had arrived from New Harmony. Half of it was static. The other half, a whisper from a frightened voice. They're here. We didn't expect this. No warning. No demand. Just silence. And now, then nothing. The message cut off. The room filled with silence. Then questions. Pirates? System error? Another trick from the Trivarn? But one race in the council didn't speak. The humans. They sat still. Calm. Eyes steady. No panic. No fear. Just listening. Then one human stood and said, "We'll handle it." That was all. No anger. No promises. Just those 3 words. Suspicion. In silence after the meeting, Varnak once again found himself uneasy. The humans should have been angry. A colony lost? People missing? There should have been fire in their voices, but instead they were calm. Too calm. He remembered the words from the old war archive. They don't rise in anger. They wait in silence. So Varnak tried to reach New Harmony himself. No signal. Not even static. It was as if the colony had never existed. He looked through old records, maps, satellite data. What he found disturbed him. Every building in New Harmony had hidden tunnels beneath it. Every family had an emergency plan. Every child learned first aid and survival training. This was not a peaceful colony. It was a hidden shield, a secret response. While the council debated, while races argued over what happened, the humans did not wait. From a quiet moon near the edge of their space, a fleet moved. No lights. No noise. Each ship followed a straight path, not to fight, not to warn, but to watch, to learn, to plan. A single ship, small and unmarked, entered the remains of New Harmony's orbit. It scanned the area. It recorded everything. Then it left. No words were spoken. No report was sent to the council. The humans simply added a file to their own systems. Test confirmed. Response noted. No further action. For now. Other species react back at the council, the Trivarn ambassador laughed. They lost a colony and did nothing? Peacekeepers? More like house pets. Many in the room laughed. But not all. Some started to wonder. If humans were truly weak, why did they not beg for help? If they were broken, why were they not afraid? One ambassador from the Jalari race whispered to another, "What if they are waiting again?" The other nodded slowly, waiting for the right moment. Quiet preparations. In the following weeks, the humans continued as before. They sent aid to other worlds. They helped repair damaged satellites. They trained peacekeeping teams. They smiled at every meeting. But behind that smile, something was moving. Old factories were reopened. Old codes were activated. Old names were spoken again. The kind that hadn't been heard since the Great Wars. Not soldiers, not fighters, but planners, observers. Humans who remembered everything and forgave nothing. In Nai, the cold quiet of deep space, a satellite drifted across the stars. Its purpose was simple, observe and report. But this satellite wasn't built by the council. It wasn't registered by any known government, and it never sent signals to the usual networks. It only listened, and everything it heard, it sent to one place: Earth. No one in the galaxy knew how many of these satellites humans had placed, but someone had just noticed one, and that changed everything. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes, an engineer on a Trivarn outpost found the satellite, by accident. He thought it was space junk, just a piece of metal floating too close to their station. But when he pulled it inside and powered it down, he discovered a hidden chip. A chip that recorded conversations, flight paths, cargo logs, everything near the human border. He took it to his commander. The commander brought it to the council. Now the room was no longer filled with jokes or laughter. This time, everyone was quiet. The humans were not just watching. They were recording, studying, preparing, and no one had noticed, nor for years. A quiet discussion at the next council meeting, the human ambassador entered calmly. He took his seat, looked around the room, and waited. No one spoke first. Finally, the council leader cleared her throat. "We found one of your devices," she said. The ambassador smiled kindly. "Yes. Why was it there?" she asked. "To understand," he answered. "Understand what?" He paused, then said, "Who you really are when you think no one's listening." The room fell silent again. The message was clear, even if the words were soft. Behind the curtain, what the galaxy didn't know was that Earth had a department most humans never talked about. It wasn't part of their military or science division. It was older, quieter, born from history, not power. They called it the Watch. No one in the council knew its name. No files about it existed outside Earth. The Watch didn't fight. It remembered. Every insult, every loss, every broken promise, and for the past 20 years, it had quietly built a complete picture of the galaxy. Who was honest, who was false, who was safe, and who was not. Testing the boundaries, the Trivarn, proud and clever, decided to test the humans again. They sent small ships near Earth's border, not close enough to break rules, just enough to be seen. Nothing happened, at least not on the surface. But 2 days later, every Trivarn ship across the galaxy received a quiet message on their screens. Just a single sentence. "We saw you." That was enough. No name, no signature, no warning. The Trivarn ships turned back. They didn't speak of it again. A growing realization. Other races began to share stories in private. One merchant captain said a human ship appeared beside him in deep space after he joked about Earth's weakness on a public channel. The human ship didn't say anything. It just stayed there for an hour, watching, then disappeared. Another ambassador said her personal files were rearranged one morning. Nothing was taken. Nothing was changed. But at the top of her folder, one new file had appeared. It was a photo. Photo of her speaking secretly with a known enemy of Earth 3 years ago. No message came with it. None was needed. The council's debate inside council chambers, arguments broke out. Are the humans trying to scare us? Is this blackmail? They said nothing, someone replied. They did nothing. But we feel something. A Jalari advisor stood slowly. He had fought in the old wars. He had faced human forces before. They haven't changed, he said. They've just learned to wait longer. That day, many council members began changing passwords, canceling meetings, rewriting agreements. Not because they had done anything wrong, but because they were suddenly afraid that someone had noticed. Ending scene, cliffhanger. On a quiet world at the edge of known space, a child found something strange in a field. A box buried under the dirt, small, smooth. It hummed gently when touched. He ran to show his parents. By the time they returned, the box was gone. No signs, no marks in the soil, no footprints, only a message carved into a nearby tree, written in a language only humans use. If it's not yours, don't touch it. The parents said nothing. They took their child inside, locked the doors, and turned off every screen. The galaxy was beginning to stir. The council had seen it before, but this time it felt different. Whispers had started, quiet questions, rumors that the humans weren't simply observing, they were testing, and they were waiting for something. A few days after the strange message was found in the field, a new event shook the galaxy. A planet, a neutral one, was suddenly cut off from all communication. The council assumed it was a minor issue at first, maybe a communication failure. But as the hours turned into days, it became clear that something more had happened. No one knew why or how, but one thing was certain. This planet had been silenced, and the humans didn't say a word about it. Hook First 7 minutes, the council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all over the galaxy arrived in a panic, afraid that this silence could spread. They demanded answers. They pointed fingers. Who did this? Who is responsible for this silence? They asked. The human ambassador stood up calmly. As always. His face was unreadable, his eyes sharp. Have you checked your own systems? He asked, his voice quiet. The room fell silent. Why would we check our own systems? A voice from the Sakar species asked, clearly confused. This is not our fault. You might be right, the human replied, but we've learned not to ignore patterns. Sometimes, the silence is the message itself. The council members exchanged nervous glances. They couldn't understand what he meant. Your silence is becoming louder than your words, the human continued, his gaze steady. And that means something has changed. A darker understanding. Across the galaxy in the far reaches of space, a scientist on a distant moon discovered something strange. The data had been quiet for months, but now there was a subtle shift. Something new was forming in the human sectors, something that wasn't there before. He wasn't sure what it was, but he could feel it. A presence watching, waiting. It was the kind of feeling you get when you know you're being observed, but you can't see the eyes watching you. He tried to trace the signals, but there was no trace. Just a quiet, constant hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. He reported it to the council. The message was short. They are planning something, but it wasn't a threat. It was just a statement of fact. A growing fear days passed, and the fear spread. It wasn't just that humans were silent. It was the way they acted. Too calm, too controlled. They weren't reacting to anything the way others expected. Where was their anger? Their desperation? Where was their need to prove they weren't a threat? The truth was, humans didn't need to prove anything anymore. They had already learned everything they needed to know, and now they had learned how to wait. They were waiting for the moment when the galaxy would see them for who they truly were. Not peacekeepers, but something far more powerful. The quiet return one evening, far from the council's view, a human ship drifted silently past a neutral world. It wasn't special in any way. A small, forgotten planet, one that didn't matter much in the grand scale of things. But the human ship was not there to observe. It was there to deliver a message. It passed by, unnoticed by the planet's inhabitants, until the very last moment. Only then did the ship send a single line of code, a message only certain systems could understand. We know where you are, we know what you did. Don't test us again. And just as quietly as it arrived, the ship vanished into the dark. The pattern unfolds. For weeks, no one heard anything more from the humans. It was as if they had faded into the background, like a shadow in the corner of a room. But the truth was they were always there, and their silence made other species uncomfortable. The Trivarn spoke openly about it, boasting about their own strength. But even their bravado was laced with doubt. Some of them had heard the whispers, the quiet warnings, in their communications. The Sakar, known for their love of diplomacy, sent a message to Earth's ambassador. They tried to open a channel for peaceful discussions. The reply was simple. Peace will come when you understand that we are not here to negotiate. We are here to watch. We are here to remember. The message left them wondering, what did humans mean by that? What were they remembering? A final warning back in the council chambers, things had become tense. The fear was growing, but no one dared speak it aloud. No one wanted to confront the possibility that the humans might not be the peaceful allies they appeared to be. But then late one night, a strange transmission came through the council's central system. It wasn't from a ship. It wasn't even from a known source. It was from Earth, and it contained one simple image, a map of the galaxy, with Earth at its center. Every sector was marked with small symbols, some green, some yellow, some red. But one thing was clear. Earth was always watching, and the message that accompanied the map was chilling. You think you understand us, but you don't. We are patient. We are not your enemies. But we will never forget what you've done. The transmission ended. The room was silent. It was a warning. But more than that, It was a promise. The stars of the galaxy blinked, unaware of the tension slowly building in the deep shadows of space. For centuries, the Council had believed they understood the humans, peacekeepers, allies, diplomats. But now the galaxy was realizing that the humans were something else entirely, and no one knew what that meant. The message sent from Earth was still fresh in everyone's minds. It had shaken the galaxy to its core. But in the midst of the growing fear, there was something even more unsettling. The humans hadn't acted on their words. They didn't make threats. They didn't send a fleet. They didn't mobilize troops. They simply watched. And the longer they waited, the more powerful their silence became. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes, at the heart of the galaxy, deep in the council chambers, another debate was brewing. The meeting room buzzed with nervous energy. The delegates from every race were speaking in hushed tones, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Earth's last message had changed everything. The human ambassador stood, as calm and composed as ever. His eyes scanned the room as if he had already seen everything the galaxy had to offer. "Do we really believe," he began, his voice calm, "that humans have ever needed to prove our worth to anyone?" The room fell silent again. We have waited patiently, we have watched, and we have learned. But if you want to see what happens when humans no longer wish to talk, then the time will come. And you will not be the ones to decide how it ends. The missing link. Somewhere on the outskirts of the galaxy, in a quiet, forgotten sector, a small team of researchers stumbled upon something they could not explain. It wasn't an ancient artifact, it wasn't a hidden message from a long-lost civilization. It was a pattern. The data they gathered over the last few years pointed to something strange. The humans had a specific way of operating, a rhythm, a method. They always seemed to appear just when needed, and whenever they did, the same thing happened. Things changed. A peaceful agreement would suddenly shift. A colony under threat would mysteriously find its defenders. A weak economy would suddenly see a surge in resources, all without explanation. And at the center of it all was one simple question. How? How had the humans learned to manipulate events without ever raising a weapon? How had they become so powerful, so untouchable? The answer, though not obvious, was becoming clearer with every passing moment. The humans knew how to wait, and waiting was their greatest strength. A growing unease. As the days passed, an uneasy feeling spread among the galaxy's leaders. Each race, each government began looking over their shoulder. They didn't know if they were being watched, but the feeling was unmistakable. The Sakar, always the most diplomatic of the races, tried to reach out to Earth again. They sent ambassadors, they sent messages, they offered gifts. The humans responded, but not in the way anyone expected. They didn't offer peace talks. They didn't send representatives. They sent a single line of code, delivered on a secure channel to the Sakar's main government station. "We will not forget, but we will not engage unless necessary." It was simple, yet deeply unsettling. No threats, no promises. Just a statement of fact. And for the first time, the Sakar were unsure whether they could trust their own peacekeepers. The silent choice in the deepest corner of the galaxy where no other race dared to venture, a ship traveled in the quiet darkness of space. It wasn't a large ship, nor a special one. It didn't carry any weapons or resources that could influence the galaxy. It carried only one thing, a message. The ship traveled to a forgotten colony, one that had once been abandoned by the galaxy, left to drift in isolation. But the ship didn't deliver supplies or aid. It simply landed. And from it, a lone human figure emerged. The inhabitants of the colony watched in silence as the human approached their gates. They didn't speak. They didn't ask for help. The human stood in front of them and held up a small device showing them a map of the galaxy with their colony marked on it. "Your isolation ends," the human said quietly. "We know you're here, and We will always know where you are. You no longer have to hide. Then, without waiting for a response, the human turned and walked back to the ship. The device with the map was left behind, a simple gift. No words, no demand, just the knowledge that their location was now known. The ripple effect back at the council. Something strange began to happen. A quiet ripple spread through the ranks. Old alliances started to shift. Trust in the humans was fading, but so was fear. What was once seen as a potential threat was now viewed with something else entirely: respect. The galaxy had always believed that humans were weak, that they couldn't stand up to the more powerful species, but that was before they learned the truth. Humans didn't fight like others. They didn't push their strength to the forefront. Instead, they waited. And while everyone else rushed to act, to speak, to do, the humans stayed calm, watching, listening, always observing. They were not peacekeepers. They were patient, and the galaxy was beginning to understand. Patience was a power no one could match. The final test in a quiet chamber, deep within Earth's government, a small team of officials sat at a table discussing the next move. What if they've learned everything? One of them asked, his voice filled with doubt. What if we've shown them too much? Another official, older and wiser, leaned forward. They haven't learned everything, he said. They've learned what they need. And now we will show them something else. He pressed a button. A map of the galaxy appeared, this time showing a dark corner that no one had ever dared explore. A place where the silence had become absolute. The team's leader spoke softly but with conviction. Let's see how they react when the silence becomes ours. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could explain. What had started as a simple misunderstanding, a diplomatic encounter gone awry, had slowly morphed into something much larger. Something that even the most powerful beings in the galaxy weren't prepared for. The humans, with their strange ways, had begun to leave their mark, not through force, not through displays of military might, but through something far more unsettling: their patience. And now, at the farthest edges of the galaxy, one by one, the stars seemed to dim. Systems, once teeming with life and activity, were suddenly quiet. Communications grew sparse. Ships that once filled the void of space with constant chatter now only moved in silence. No one dared to speak it aloud, but there was one unspoken truth that was becoming clearer with every passing day. The humans were watching, and they weren't going anywhere. Hook. First 5-7 minutes, the council's chambers were filled with nervous whispers. The latest transmission from Earth had just come through, and it was like nothing anyone had ever received before. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even a demand. It was simply this: we are still here. We will always be here. And you will never forget what you've seen. The council leaders looked at one another. No one spoke. One by one, their eyes turned to the human ambassador, who stood as calm as ever at the front of the room. His expression was unreadable, as always. Yet there was something about the way he held himself that made it clear he knew the galaxy was beginning to understand what the humans had already known for centuries. We don't need to remind you of our strength, the ambassador said, his voice quiet but firm. We don't need to force you to see us as allies or enemies. We are not here to play games. We are here to make sure you understand that we have no intention of leaving. Ever. The words echoed in the chamber, and, every race there felt a chill crawl up their spine. For the first time, the council understood. It wasn't the humans' presence they feared. It was their ability to never truly leave, to always be watching. The signal in the void far from the council, in a forgotten region of space, a small group of explorers encountered something strange. They were out near the borders of a galaxy no one had visited in centuries. The ship was ancient, a relic from another time, but it had been one of the few to survive the long journey. Its crew, tired but determined, were cataloging new findings when one of the sensors picked up a faint signal. It was human, or at least it seemed like it. The signal wasn't strong, but it was distinct, unlike anything they had ever encountered before. A series of rhythmic pulses, a pattern in the noise, an imprint that seemed both distant and familiar. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a message. It was simply a presence. The explorers tried to trace it, but the signal was elusive, always just out of reach. Each time they thought they were close, the signal would vanish, as if someone or something was toying with them. An unexpected visit back in the council chambers, the tension was mounting. A small but powerful group of diplomats had been sent to Earth to engage in a final round of talks. They believed that if they could just get the humans to explain their intentions, they might find a way to avoid the escalating tension. They arrived on Earth with high hopes, believing they could offer peace, understanding, or at least a compromise. But when they stepped off their ships, there was no greeting, no welcoming party, just the cold silence of Earth's capital. It was different from what they had expected. There was no show of power, no military presence, just an eerie quiet. And then when they entered the building, they were met with a single figure, the human ambassador. He didn't greet them. He didn't shake their hands. He simply looked at them and spoke, his words as calm as ever. "You are here to speak, but we have already spoken. You are not the first to come. You will not be the last. The only question is, how long will you stay?" A hidden truth as the diplomats tried to make sense of their encounter, something deeper began to unfold. On the other side of the galaxy, in the distant sectors where the humans had been quietly watching, things were happening. A small, once insignificant planet, hidden from the rest of the galaxy, suddenly received an unexpected visitor. The planet had been isolated for generations, untouched by the major races and largely forgotten. But one day, a human ship arrived. It didn't land. It didn't engage in any kind of formal communication. Instead, the ship stayed in orbit for days. It didn't speak. It didn't offer help. It didn't demand anything. It simply watched, and when it finally left, it left behind something strange. A single object, a piece of technology, more advanced than anything the planet's inhabitants had ever seen. It was small, simple, a device with a single button, and when pressed, it would only show one thing: a map. A map that showed the entire galaxy, every major planet, every race, every important location. But there was one thing the map had that no one expected: Earth. It was highlighted in bright red, clearly visible at the center of the galaxy. The message was clear: we are always watching. The unseen network back at the council, the message from Earth was still sinking in. The galaxy had never been so aware of the humans, yet the humans themselves had remained largely silent. But now, some races were starting to realize that Earth wasn't just watching. They were connected in ways no one had ever guessed. There were reports from the edges of space, from systems no one thought humans cared about, of strange things happening, small events, quiet changes, places where things just worked out. A failed system would suddenly find new resources. A trade dispute would somehow resolve itself, without anyone knowing why. Even major economic crashes seemed to pause, just when they were about to spiral out of control. It was as if there was a hidden hand guiding things. A hand that never made itself known but always knew when to step in. The humans weren't just watching, they were influencing, and no one had any idea how far their influence truly reached. The silence speaks as the galaxy grew more and more uneasy. The human ambassador's words rang in the air. You will learn eventually that the greatest strength is not in action, but in understanding. And just like that, the silence returned. The human ships disappeared from view. No more messages, no more demands, just quiet. But the galaxy would never be the same again. The humans weren't leaving. They weren't backing down. They were waiting, and the galaxy was beginning to understand what that meant.